The late game is going to be so impossible to deal with. Split pushing Camille, Rise on the side lane, the Ezreal scaling, and all the engage tools they have.
Yeah.
Whereas this is kind of a little bit pigeonholed on how much damage can LeBlanc do late game, because the setup not very consistent, unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that bottom lane goes as well. Obviously, on paper, favoring Prince and Effort as players, but head into light, you know, there have been some games where they have popped off, and Kalista can do some fun stuff. We all know what Kalista can do, and especially when she is partnered with that Gragas. The bans were pretty interesting, actually, from Live Sandbox this time around. They banned Varus and Aphelios, and those were two of Henna's most played. His second, actually, out of the three most played was Kalista.
Yeah.
So I think they must have absolutely expected this pick and have prepared to play around it.
Yeah, it's definitely one that he played a lot throughout the summer season, a little bit in spring too, and it's I feel like Fred at Breon, if you remove the nameplates, and we have to do this a lot actually in the LCK, especially in the end of the regular season, where if Fred at Breon were playing for their playoff life, they might not have actually drafted quite like this, but they're playing a very, very difficult to execute composition with players that absolutely can do it, right? Hoya, if he's going to play weak side set, that's the guy to do it, right? He's forever alone. He's going to play it on the top side. You're going to play this extremely hyper carry focused late game LeBlanc, who's going to need a poke and need to get that chip damage in and be your main source of damage that's ranged to set up for him to do that. Lava's your guy, right? But if the coordination requires so much of this team to all be on the same page, have the right position, have vision control, and look for big combos with, you know, set engaging, Lee Sin looking for kicks, how the late game goes when you have to also consider Gragas as a great engage tool. With a stronger team, you're like, this is a terrifying draft. But with Predator Breon, you know, we'll have to wait and see.
Summit's like, okay, sure. I'll take that trade if you want. Gonna have a fun time of it. Did go the grasp for some bit better potential trading there in the early game. In the quick trades, of course. Yeah, less so in the extended trades. Conqueror could have been good for that. But either way, as you can see, tons of comfort here for Henna. 13 games on the Kalista. Some of what we talked about, but no slouch or Prince and Effort on these two picks. Very much their most well-known for these two players.
Not to mention that, you know, the fact that this lane is already being pushed in like this at this stage in the Kalista versus Ezreal matchup is a good sign for them in the early parts. Well, every moment here.
That timing was nice, but yeah, as you mentioned, you're still going to get chained down, and yeah, you can flash over the wall, tries to get helped, but the pillar's not good enough, and an early gank from Umti will be key for helping out Fred Breon here.
Yeah, you just can't be there if you don't know where Umti is. He's going to lose his teleport early on here. It's going to be a ton of extra gold. As Set is on a massive losing streak. Every time this pops up, I'm like, that number is getting really big. Like I feel like last time I remember seeing this it was 7, but now it's 10. Hoya 3 of those losses. Key point to point out.
Yeah, he played it the most, and actually Krako's gonna miss that ward.
Oh my god.
It's not a critical ward because it's like not in the brush and it's a little bit awkwardly placed, but it's still very tilting that he did not find that one. Effort is going to find that ward though, so that's pretty nice, I suppose.
Yep, Summit up here just clearing the waves. Just having a little bit of trouble after that initial trade went well for him.
이러면 2대1도 딱히 안 빠졌고 와드 살짝 짧게 하러 온다. 이거 잠깐만 이거 오케이. 가볼게.
He's like, I'm putting the ward down first. 2v2 is a good fight. And then he's like,
가면 돼. 잡았어. 일단 라이즈 노플. 여기 와드.
Rise, no flash. And he's calling out the 2v2 is going to look good, but it was a 2v1, unfortunately, because Krako wasn't there. And that's our, you know, we talked about the death, but losing the flash too means you're a sitting duck now.
Yeah. You just got to sit there and try to clear waves and try not to die, but that removes some of that priority that Rise could potentially put on with his superior wave clearing, especially after you get some items. But should have the flash by then, I suppose. And you talked about difficulty of comps, you know, for Fred Brianna. I feel like it's pretty similar on the side of Live Sandbox. I kind of like that they're doing this, even when there is a lot on the line in terms of like, okay, we want to take the 2-0 win, we want to place in the top 2, we want to have a good chance of getting that bye into the second round of playoffs so we don't have to face the first bracket, especially with how competitive it is at the top of the LCK standings. But this is also important, kind of an important comp to play if you're trying to practice for the best of 5, because you're probably going to need to play this at some point.
Oh, for sure. And it's an old favorite for them in terms of the spot matchup. They are going to struggle here in the early game, but they have stabilized down thousands of gold actually on this Ezreal as Prince is in trouble.
Nicely done by Effort to just body block there, gets the stun down.
All they have to use is heal, and you could argue they might have been able to save that, in fact, but this is just how this goes in the early game. You have to relinquish control. They had a good start there on the bottom side, but eventually, once Henna has all 3 of his abilities up, he's going to be able to push that wave and threaten the Ezreal nonstop with those Rens, and that's exactly what happens. It leads to a potential kill, actually, there on the bottom side, but Effort handled it well. You're 1,000 gold behind right now as Live Sandbox, but most of that gold, of course, goes into the first blood that we did see Lava take, or rather, Umti take there in the mid lane. So it's still very easily recoverable, and this is still a fightable Rift Herald. Delight is maybe going to get caught here.
It's going to get rooted down, and they are committing to this, but easy flash onto the Zenith Blade, and now Live Sandbox are the ones running away. They have to flash out of this one. The Q is going to connect, and even Krako has to flash away from that. As they're really looking to make a play here early on to try to help Fate, but it did not go as planned.
Yeah, that was definitely not... was not well fated, that attempt. Oh, I didn't actually mean to do that on purpose, but I guess that's just what happens when you have these words floating around. They stick into your brain.
Sure.
But yeah, no, seriously, I didn't do it on purpose, I swear. I'm not that kind of guy, until I am, which is sometimes the case. But if you look at the scenarios here for Live Sandbox with that attempt, like the risk is insanely high at this stage, and the reward is very small. And it does kind of feel like what you were saying is really starting to hold true, is Live Sandbox are trying to play this game like they're in a training session with weights attached to their arms and legs, right? They're actually trying to make this game as hard as possible in a lot of ways, almost like this is a scrim, because in scrims you will intentionally play bad matchups.
Limit testing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll play bad matchups, you'll take aggressive opportunities like the one they looked for there in the mid lane, and try to play it out, because if you can actually make it work, or if you end up losing Flash's Effort in this case, like you're playing a harder game. I don't think that's actually what's happening, but it's funny because your analogy starts to feel more and more likely, where I'm like, well, you didn't have to do that, you'd actually be just fine, but now you're down a Flash on your Leona, so, let's see how it goes. Let's watch it play out.
Yeah, I mean, especially because this lane is kind of rough, especially up against the Kalista here. Level 6 here, of course, going to be hit first. And they got zoned off a bunch of the XP, so the Ezreal just... This is the way this is going to go, right? So I think it was a little bit of like, okay, Effort is like, I can't really help too much in the lane. Maybe we can try to make a play in the mid lane. Ryze is great for gank assist. Maybe we can set something up. But we saw a little bit of this from Faker, actually, in their match yesterday against Gen G, where he flashed on TF away from the Leona and pulled life all the way into his team and got him out of position. That's one of the big weaknesses of Zenith Blade. If you connect, you're going in there.
Yeah.
It's like the Lee Sin Q. You can't get away. You can't cancel that one. So
nope. You also are under turret in this case, as Credit Breon are going to start this Rift Herald up right now, and you look at the setup here for Live Sandbox. They're in the vicinity. But even sets coming in, like this is actually going to be really tough to actually turn as Live Sandbox here. I don't think you can.
Ezreal's not here, and he's walking through the jungle as it looks like the wave is pushing away from him. That's a big yikes. I mean, he's losing XP, he's losing gold, he can't get to the fight. The Rift Herald goes over to free to Fred Breon, like... Fred Breon's living in a free world right now.
Yeah, if you're just going to send a True Shot Barrage, maybe send that one from the lane. And continue to push, as our observer team has been highlighting this entire time. The missed minions down here.
Do we have English observers now? Like, are they listening?
I mean, I think the thing is, like, the Korean cast is probably talking about the exact same things. It's just so glaringly obvious what the trade-off of that rotation was going to be. He does back in the jungle, gets away, but like that's not really a positive. He could have done that anywhere. It was a bit of a weird moment here.
Yeah,
but it could have actually led to, a big catch-up here for Prince that he so desperately needs, but either way, First Drake to Fred Brion, first Herald, first Blood, Summoner spell advantages across the board, starting to wear off now. This only Kroko and Effort are getting the last part of those flashes back up, but this has been a very strong early game for Fredit.
Yeah. I liked how you almost said Fredit Freon.
Yeah, I didn't do it though, don't worry.
Almost, though. As Summit in a little bit of trouble, he's going to eat that extra shot. As Set, you know, he's got some limits with a Ruby Crystal and a couple of Doran's items. But nice little play, you know, trying to put pressure on the Summit so he doesn't just get free push in the top side. Gotta admire that. Trying to look for plays underneath your turret. Hoya's doing a great job playing that side so far.
The composition here for Live Sandbox is going to be so terrifying to deal with in terms of what it does functionally. As Atlas likes to say, what it says on the tin is that split pushing is going to be incredibly difficult to deal with. The scaling damage is way better consistently in a 5v5 fight. But they don't need to be being the aggressors just yet. Like, we aren't there yet, Live Sandbox. You're not in first place yet, so you're going to have to back off and take this one a little bit slow because your comp is going to be better later, not now.
Yeah, it's a good point because Live Sandbox in spring or even round 1 summer, they probably would have just all-inned on that Rift Herald and lost. They would have gotten so far behind and they would have just probably lost the game. But I think it was the right call, absolutely, to just not go in there.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm glad you pointed out that they're kind of, you know, playing around their comp and how they should be a little bit passive at this point in the game.
Showing up a little bit fashionably late, but not, and then just going, nah, this party's not for us. It's like very romantic, you know, in very Live Sandbox fashion, you know, a little bit cool guy style. And Prince is once again respecting the power here. And as soon as the Rift Herald is, you know, gets shown, when Umpty shows up, you're like, well, I am dead if I stay here. And his resources are given, right? Kroko and Effort come over, like he's going to be able to shut this down, not going to be a full turret. And it's a nice response here for Live Sandbox.
Yeah.
About as good as you could have asked for. Keep the turret alive for just a little bit longer.
Yeah, for sure. It does mean that Henna is given a lot more gold as well. This early game play from Umpty really set the tone as he visited mid, got a kill, went down to the bottom side, pressured them off the turret, got the heal, made that lane win harder than it was already going to, made the play onto the Rift Heralds and was able to snowball that into more. So Umpty may be watching the first series and getting some inspiration from Dread, but this is definitely what Umpty does on a good day.
Oh, for sure. And, you know, it's been ups and downs for him this year, not just this season, especially in this round, though. It's been a very emotional roller coaster for him. You know, thinking about the Jin Zhao range and the pause we had actually just 2 days ago, some small things that start to add up for you mentally when you're a player who's actually been around for a long time. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize Umpty is actually a veteran of the LCK, has seen a lot of teams, has seen a lot of action, and you know, he's got to be a leader here once again. He's setting the tempo very well for them in this first game. 2 Drake advantage now. As Summit is just harassing. And for this reason alone in this matchup, I like not taking Conqueror because you're just like, oh, you can't even trade this back. And you have so much mobility. You just walk away from this or bounce away, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's very annoying. Set's actually down 20 CS.
Yeah. And I kind of like the idea, too, especially against a team like Fred Brion. You were talking about Forever Alone Hoya. Like, you're never going to get help as the Set. It's like, good luck.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, you're just up there by yourself, like, quite literally.
Summit's like, thanks for the shield. I'm going to tank your turret shot, and I'm trading up.
Umpty and Lava easily could have, like, rotated top and maybe try to pressure him back, try to help out your top laner. But no, we're just going to invade the enemy jungle, get some extra vision, help out our mid lane. Not a bad idea, but does mean that Hoya is still forever alone.
The scary part about committing to help Hoya in this case, too, is you have Ryze in the mid lane who can out-rotate a lot of the times. Right now he has teleport advantage, so if you try to make that play, he's going to come up and punish you. He also has Realm Warp, so he doesn't even necessarily even need to commit the teleport. Then what could have been a punish on the Summit ends up being an outnumbering of Live Sandbox beating out how many players you have there in that top fight. Then you lose that, you lose turret plates, and it becomes a disaster. But they do not commit. Unfortunately, Hoya is just doing his job here, which is very painful. It's going to be a lot of lost minions here as he is forced to retreat. And we're 2 minutes away from this Drake fight. So Live Sandbox have had some rough times, right? They lost the objectives. They lost a lot of power bottom side. But it's not a big enough lead yet for Frederick Brion to where you feel very confident about your position in this game. The Drakes are great, but we're not at soul point just yet. And even with a 2-Drake lead, you've extended the game if those go over to Live Sandbox, which isn't good for you either, right? You need a bigger lead than this one, I think, if you really want to find the tempo advantage that's going to let you coast through that mid to late.
Yeah, got a nice little snowball going for sure, as long as they can kind of ignore the top side. Bit of a rotation as Henna is now up in the top lane, and now it's Fate versus Hoya. Kind of mixed up the lanes here. As a lot of focus for Frederick Brion is up in that top lane, and they send Hoya down because he's got teleport, and if anything breaks out, he can get back in, whereas Lava does not, and they're really going to try to secure this one big time.
Yeah, this is going to be a really big fight here. Potentially, is we do see the rotation over from Fate is a little bit late here. He has to teleport.
All right, we're throwing it all down on the second Rift Herald. Where have I seen this before? Well, in a lot of Live Sandbox games, as they're trying to turn onto Summit here, but he immediately is able to get back as Hoya is super low, and he just gets blown up as he says there's only one direction, and it's forward. And they all tried to turn onto the Camille, but Summit's escape was great, and the committal from Hoya and his subsequent death means that Live Sandbox get the objective here for free.
Yeah, he's just not tanky enough at this point to actually look for that type of engage. He's going to get burst down super easily. Umpty is in the same boat, you know, and unfortunately he's not able to hit the big damage. They have good engage, but they're not able to execute on it correctly here. And I really like Fate committing to the teleport there, because if he's not there, this doesn't work as well. He's outnumbered. He wants to be greedy and just walk over, and as soon as he teleports in, Liv Sandbox is like, we are going to fight this, right? It did feel like, okay, wow, we might just flip the game right here. If Frederick Brion ended up getting a bunch of kills, they get that advantage I was talking about that is too difficult to come back as Liv Sandbox if you end up giving those kills over. That's exactly what Frederick Brion want, which is why they do group up for the second Rift Herald. But the execution of shutting down Hoya was so well played. It ends up being a really nice advantage for them. It's going to lead to now an additional bunch of turret gold going over to Live Sandbox. So much map control that comes with that. Now we're going into free farm territory here as Prince in the mid lane. When Ezreal, people talk about Ezreal's power spikes, okay, he gets a second item online, he's getting to his third item. When Ezreal can farm free in mid, that's when you know it's going pretty well. Like, once you start to get to that point, you're not under any threats, you're just sitting in the mid lane and pushing, and nobody can touch you because there's side lane pressure on the other sides of the map. You're like, cool, how could I mess this up? Like, how can I not get minions and get gold? Like, it's really tough to mess that up. It's gonna be Krako's perspective here.
He's literally just saying over and over.
And that's the problem, right? Like, Subjugate actually makes it so much more difficult for Set to actually be in this position. If Set's in this position without his, tankiness, right, and he's slowed, he's just going to get rooted and blown up by all this damage that Live Sandbox has.
Yeah. And now, Lava is on the block. Generally pretty difficult, but you get that 2-second root, and okay, he's actually able to get away for now.
Does have teleport, but I don't think he gets out of here.
Well, he is LeBlanc
they have
with Flash, and he's going to buy a lot of time anyway. You can see this push is coming down here in the mid lane, and they can't really do much to stop this. The rest of the team rotates over, and now Lava has got some potential help. Summit, though, alongside a Prince, nearly able to take down Hoya as they will commit to the ultimate and get him down. Lava now over the wall will be able to pick up the kill and get away as the Great Escape is on. We got the Subjugate here onto the light, it looks like, from what I can tell.
He gets away, and it's a trade, so I think this is about the best case scenario you would have hoped for as Frederick Brion, considering the rotation up there to the top side. But, you know, that's a trade in gold against a comp that's going to be better than yours later. Lava does get out, saves us one Tark Seal stack. But, I mean, the consequence is that you're once again going to have to back off and lose map control as a result of it. Is your comp crumbles when everyone has to rotate to the left side to save LeBlanc. Then your right side, in this case Hoya, is extremely vulnerable. And Lava just barely gets out with that knockback there sent onto that kick sent onto Prince, because one more auto does it. So they are like basically one auto away from this being an even better trade for Live Sandbox. So good in that Lava doesn't die for free, but bad in that a trade like this is not good for you long term.
Yeah. sitting here trading kills and getting Camille and Ezreal more gold is generally not a good feel. Although there are a couple of the carries on the side of Fred Brion that are farming nicely themselves as well. The Kalista with the 1 kill so far. Even Lava is very much keeping up in terms of CS and also picked up a couple of assists. So we'll see what they can do in the mid game. I think it is definitely going to come down to execution. I was a bit worried about how aggressive Live Sandbox were, you know, around objectives that are not necessarily huge in the grand scheme of things, but they were able to execute it well and make the plays happen. So even though it's results-based, it works out for them this time around. As now the big rotation up to the top side.
I want that inner turret gold, but Fred Brion do respond in kind, and that is going to be that. Does end up kind of burning this clock down on the next Drake quite significantly. That's kind of the main end result here. You will see Fate return to lane faster, but not too much will be lost here for Fred Brion. If they didn't react this quickly, would have been some extra gold going over and a lot of extra top control leading into the Drake. But as it turns out, they're going to get the response there to the Rise push, and will actually have the opportunity to control vision now around this Drake.
All right, Lava, he's found Effort here, and Effort's just going for a walk. Bye-bye. He's going through the jungle. He's very low level, and Lava just easily is able to help scoop that for his team, and now he's looking for a little bit more as Elise comes in, and there's going to be the kick on the Croco. The Subjugate is on, so he's so difficult to kill. They're expending so much to kill the Trundle, and they do get him. But now the Rise here, and Fate and Summit are looking to hunt. It is hunting season, and Fred Brion are the prey. They'll be able to pick up a couple of them on top of what they already got as Fate and Summit pocket more gold.
Tons of money going over to Live Sandbox here, and now you're looking for more, Lava!
That is the LeBlanc. He's got a way to fight here.
Game over.
And that is the end of the fight. I am LeBlanc, I declare it.
Yeah. Insert coins to continue. He is going to have to back off, but this is a mistake from Effort where you don't have any vision around the Drake pit, and Lava just waits for someone who comes over to check the vision. It's even with Leona, who's very tanky. You mentioned the level advantage. It's insane versus support at this stage in the game. And this ends up being a way big overextension for Fred Brion. The Subjugate is enough to actually buy time, and they double down on it. Meanwhile, the Drake.
You got another fight here. Umpty is right in the pit, and he's going to get there a little bit late to that Smite fight, and it does go pretty easily at 897 to the side of Live Sandbox. Croco able to pick that one up, and now they're just kiting back. They have an Ezreal, they have a Trundle, you throw a pillar, a couple of Qs, and you can easily get away from Bro.
Yeah, and Fred Brion don't want to repeat the same mistake they made on the mid turret and continue to chase and overextend. It's crazy how much respect Live Sandbox have showed after those initial aggressions that you were talking about earlier, where they made some big mistakes and did overextend, didn't wait for their power spike. But now that they have, you know, they have Fred Brion who's trying to make some plays, trying to get map control. They've actually ceded over so much vision control. Like every time the observers show Live Sandbox's vision, you're like, well, they just can't see anything. So now they have to group up and take this Baron. But I like that they're not, you know, completely committing to try to take these vision fights alone, because that's when Fred Brion could just pick single champions, as we saw the pick onto Effort just moments ago. You got to use your side lane pressure to get even ward clears. Right now.
Good luck, Hoya. You're down 80 CS, and you are 0-3 against a incredibly fed Camille, who's got the most farm currently on the side of Live Sandbox. This is where the fun begins. It begins to begin, you know?
Yes.
Here for Live Sandbox. This is where you see the light at the end of the tunnel. It wasn't a very dark tunnel, but you got through it relatively easily.
And once again, Prince free farming in the mid lane. And they finally, with that side pressure, once again pulled Fred Brion enough apart where they have a little bit more map control. But Summit, will he get punished this time?
Nice denial there on the hook shot. He's still kiting them out, and as the chains are going to miss, and there's three of them down here, as the jungler is here as well. And yes, you get Summit, but now three of them. It's Rise and Ezreal just getting to work here onto this Baron. Do they have enough damage is really the question.
I think so. They missed the ward here, so Fred Brion, no, but it's too little too late.
Efforts here, he's trying to zone them away. He's going to be in a bit of a rough spot. Might have to sacrifice his life. Down will go the Baron, and see you later, they say. Realm Warp to safety as Live Sandbox pick up the big objective.
Yeah, definitely worth it, but Fred and Brion are not just going to go, well, kill for a Baron. We're going to actually get more. We're going to go look for 2 turrets on the map. Summit respawning in 10. He's so high level. You mentioned his lead. He's so high level that his death timer is extremely long, so Hoya can actually push this out on his own for a really long time. Now you have the mid push.
Oh.
Wow, that was scary.
That was scary.
Yeah. The mid push coming through, and this is a lot of map control for Fred at Brion, which of course will fade away with the Baron buff. But watching this moment again, teleport gets committed to. You could see effort on the minimap. It's like, I don't think I can actually come over and save. There's a lot of pings for Fred at Brion knowing, okay, Leona's coming down. But they know there's no way for anyone to teleport over here and save. Anyone who comes in will actually also die. But it's a split decision, or a snap decision from Live Sandbox to go over here and take this Baron. And despite the best efforts here for Fred at Brion, effort gives his life to guarantee the triple buff. And they Realm Warp out.
Best effort from effort.
Yeah.
See what you did there.
I just keep doing it. How many of these other ones?
On a roll.
I'm just going to turn umpty into a verb soon. Like, so they umpty right over 90 seconds to the Drake.
Yep. And, yeah, I mean, Live Sandbox, they were able to get the Baron, so, yeah, Spread Up Brion were able to get some things on the map. It is going to be difficult to stop some of the split pushing that you do get here. Summit, of course, was not able to get the Baron buff, so he won't have quite as strong of a push. Now, there are a couple of carries on the side of Fred Up Brion that are very fed at this point in time. I mean, Lava and Henna together, with their forces combined, there are ways where if you look for picks and you deny any kind of split pushing before it really gets going, you can absolutely still win these fights.
Okay, they don't actually get the scan here on the Lava.
Okay, we're just going in. That's going to be a nice change on the Prince, but here come the teleports. The turn from Live Sandbox is going to be huge as Summit just locks him in onto Henna, but Henna lives, and now he's kiting them out, but Fate is in the back line, and this Rise is gigantic. He picks up 3, he gets 4, and it doesn't look like he'll get any more, but it doesn't matter because the game might just end.
Yeah, Live Sandbox have so much power right now, and 30 seconds left on this Baron buff gives them a huge amount of swing right now in this game. That's going to be an inhibitor easily. There's a danger ping on the Baron from somebody on Fred at Brion. I think reminding everyone the Baron's up. Realm Warp on to the Nexus turrets with the minions.
And the Baron buff for 12 seconds. You cannot deny it if you're the LeBlanc. There is no hope, and Rise will come through. He is the hero at the end here. They're not going to get the kill. It is Lava who just flashes away, but it's still the kill on the game. GG, Live Sandbox will take game number 1.